Hello lovely people, it's a wonderful day today and I have some more testing for you. This is my test portent enclosure and how do you find a tuning frequency, the actual tuning frequency of a ported box? Not calculated, not theoretical, but actual. So this is what we're going to do today. So we're going to take impedance sweeps and we're going to see the actual tuning frequency depending on the ports that I have. Let me explain a little bit about this box. So this is my test enclosure that I recently made. If you don't follow my channel, a few videos before I made a tutorial for WinISD where I modeled this enclosure. So I figured out how big I need it, what size port I need. There's another video of Subbox Pro where I actually did the measurements and everything and I made this box. So this is a 3.5 cubic feet net internal volume box with port of 220 square centimeters, and the port length, the best part, is variable. So I have these variable ports in different lengths. I just made them, and yeah, so how does it work? So this is a test enclosure and it's not glued. If you can see here, in all the gaps is closed cell foam and it acts like a gasket. So in all around all the panels I have CCF and I have loads of screws holding it together. So again, this is a test enclosure and it works perfect for me. And if we're gonna go inside, you can see there's no sun shining through, there's no light. That means it's tight, it's airtight, and it's gonna be fine. So that is the bottom. That is my port, and it's not full. So according to this, it should be a tuning frequency of about maybe 33, 35 hertz. Then if I would take the shortest one, all around again is closed cell foam, and basically what happens is, I'm gonna try to do it with one hand. I don't know if you will be able to see anything. There we go. So if I'm gonna put it there, I'm not gonna squeeze it in properly, but just obviously it's gonna be straight. So this is how I'm extending the port. I make it a bit longer. Yeah. So I have this is the shortest one, and I have a few different lengths. So that's 3.5 centimeters, 5, 7.5, and I think 10 or 15 centimeters. So this is the longest port that in theory should give me around, I don't know, maybe 25 hertz tuning frequency, something like that. So these are my adjustable ports. This is my test enclosure. Now let's go and talk about the rig that I actually use to measure the impedance and do impedance sweeps with REW. And this is my rig to measure the impedance. It looks janky AF, but it works. So I'm not gonna go into a lot of details because all the wiring and everything, it's in REW manual. There's a schematic how you can make it. It's just you need one output, it goes as a loop back, and the other one is measuring, and the only thing that you need, so you need some connectors, obviously. You need a 2 input audio device, and the only thing, it's a resistor that you need, and that's it. A resistor, a few wires, few connectors. You can solder these wires, so you don't have to have these, and basically this is going on the speaker terminals. You clip it and you measure the impedance with REW. So this is basically Dayton DATs on super cheap, which costs literally nothing. It's just you have to solder and make sure that all connectors are fine. So Dayton DATs does exactly the same. It measures impedance, and it can calculate TS parameters. You can calculate TS parameters with this one as well because you do it from the impedance sweeps. So if you want more info, I'm gonna put a link with REW manual and the exact page where you can find this, but it's just some wiring and that's all. So this is my jig, how I do the impedance sweeps. And now we're gonna jump into REW and we're gonna do some sweeps. So I am back at home, and with my REW, I have everything connected. All my jig for impedance sweeps is connected to the subwoofer. The subwoofer is inside the enclosure. And this, if you would go to just Google REW impedance and open the first link, impedance measurements, this is the thing that you need to do in order to measure the impedance. So you need one output and two inputs. So two input audio interface works for that perfect. Some connections, some soldering, and the resistor. That's the only resistor. And then you can do the impedance sweeps, and you can read it through. You can go through all of this, and it explains how to calibrate it and what you need and that kind of stuff. There are some videos online as well. A few people did it, how to make it and calibrate it. And now we're gonna do one measurement just as a test measurement to see, and then I'm gonna do all of them and we're gonna go through everything. So to do this, you need to go first of all in preferences, making sure that your input and output device is the correct one. Then we're gonna go to measure, and this is SPL when you want to measure with a microphone, and it gives you like the frequency response. And here we're going to choose impedance. If you want to choose impedance, some things change. So here is the calibration part. When you calibrate it, it's all in the manual. If you want to play with this, I'm not going to go through this. The range. So since we're testing, we're not going to test full range. Since we're testing a subwoofer, I chose from 5 Hertz to 100 Hertz. Because our tuning frequency is going to be somewhere in between. And then the only thing we do is we're going to start the measurement. So very quick, let's start the measurement. And there we go. So it says that my level is too low, but I don't mind, I don't care. I'm going to press OK. And this is the first result. And wow, okay. So what do we see here? Sweep from 5 Hertz up to 100 Hertz, and here you have 2 peaks, and in between those peaks supposed to be our tuning frequency for the box. So our first run gives me a 30 Hertz tuning frequency for my enclosure, which is what I aimed for, which is surprising because according to my calculations the port should be longer, but hey, it is what it is. Perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run through all of these different ports that I have, and we're going to see, compare them, do some I don't know, we'll see what we're going to get, and we will talk a little bit impedance in general and about box rise. Okay, so I'll be back in a second. So I have all the measurements, 5 of them. Let's go through them. So they're not, there's not a big difference between them. Let's check the first one. The first one that we did as an example, I got a tuning frequency of about 30 Hertz exactly. So this is with no extension to the port. This is with a small extension, which I did have to do some smoothing because 1/6. Yeah, because for some reason my homemade DATS is not as pretty, doesn't give me that pretty result. So this is close to 29, I want to say. So a long extension, maybe 28.5. Even long extension, something similar. And the longest one, it dips here, maybe 28. So it's not that big of a difference as I expect it to be a bit bigger difference. I'm gonna stack all of them together, and you can see all of them are somewhere between 28 and 30, which is like 2 Hertz difference. And the difference in port length, so the with no extensions is 32 centimeters, and then I have 38, 41, 43, 50. So it's like, I want to say 50%, the biggest one is about 50% longer between the first and the last. There we go. So that's the blue one is 32 centimeters, which gives me 30 hertz, and the brown one is 50 centimeters, which gives me like 27, 28 hertz tuning frequency. Yeah, so these are the results. But the thing is, if you can see, without the port, my impedance graph is here at the bottom. With those ports, it's much higher. So it might have something to do that, but on the top here, above like 50, they're all the same. So I don't know if it has something to do with the actual port extension or maybe the corners, or I don't know. I didn't do any roundovers or anything. It's just for, you know. So what I decided to do, because this is not what I expected. With this, I expected the tuning frequency to be a bit higher. So why is it that low? What I did some calculations. I don't know if you will be able to see if you're looking on the phone. I checked the internal dimensions of the box. So I was aiming for 3.5 cubic feet, which was like 100 liters. So I added up, I multiplied all the internal dimensions, and I got 121 liter. That's 4.2 cubic foot. So because I made that box very fast, there was a toddler running around, so I didn't calculate everything super precise. Probably I made it a bit longer actually than I intended to make, and I ended up with almost a full cube more airspace than I expected. The port dimensions, actual, I did measure it, is 240, so it's a bit more than I wanted as well. I wanted it 220, so a bit more. So basically I made a bigger box with a bigger port than I intended. And now if I'm gonna go back to WinISD and I'm gonna make the same box with 4.2 cubic feet as I made actually, and tuning frequency of 30 hertz, and I go to, so this is the transfer function, which looks amazing. It peaks at what, 33 hertz, exactly what I wanted. If I go to impedance, you see this graph? Does it look familiar? It looks exactly the same. See? So the lowest part is at 30 hertz, 30. Then I have one peak at 40 hertz, almost like 39, which is exactly here. And the other peak is 21 hertz, which is exactly here. So this prediction is exactly like this. And then what I did, I went to vents and I put my actual port dimensions, 40 times 6. I'm gonna check the air velocity, which gives me like, my aim was 17 meters per second, but this is a full signal, so let's put like 500 watts. And here I have 17 meters per second. It's not gonna chuff, I'm not gonna hear it, everything is perfect. However, look at the port. So this is the cross area, 243, and according to this, my port's supposed to be 538 mil, so 53 centimeters, but my actual port is 32 centimeters. See the difference? It's like 20 centimeters difference. And I was like thinking, why is that? And I don't know if you have any suggestions. Why is it different? Because that's why I made those extensions, because I thought that I need a bigger, a longer port to have that tuning frequency, but in reality, I need a shorter port. So why is that? My thinking is that the TS parameters that I entered here in WinISD, they are a bit different from actual TS parameters that I have, that my subwoofer has. In order to know those, I would have to do two impedance sweeps, but I just didn't bother now. So my thinking is that TS parameters are different. That's why. But it's weird because displacement, actually, let's check the displacement. If I'm gonna add liters, let's remove 6 liters, so put 15 and check vents. No, it's still the same. It's supposed to be in longer. So I don't know why this port is different from what I have, because I have a much shorter port than I'm supposed to have. And this just proves that um, in order to know the actual tuning frequency of your box, you need to do impedance sweeps and measure. Otherwise, it's just guessing. But you won't be off by a lot. If you can see like 20 centimeter difference in port, um, the difference between the tuning frequencies maybe like 2 hertz between between 30, 27 and 30. So if you make the port like 50% smaller or larger, it's like plus minus 2 hertz. If you're very specific about your tuning frequency, that's going to be a difference, but if not, I don't know. So I'm happy. Now let's touch very quickly box rise and impedance. So this is the impedance that the amplifier sees. So this sub is dual 4 ohm. It's wired down to 2 ohm. If I test the leads, the speaker wire with a multimeter, so at 0 hertz at DC, it gives me 1.8 ohms. And this impedance measurement is calibrated, so it's actual values. So it's supposed to be 1.8 in free air here, yeah, 1.8, but it's actually higher because the box, that's the box rise, the box impedance. So in this particular enclosure, the lowest is 2.8 ohms. Yeah, my amplifier goes down to 2 ohms, so it's going to be pretty happy with 2.8 ohms. And now what's happening if you're playing any frequency? So your lowest impedance, so that means that the amplifier gives out the most power, is at your tuning frequency and above. So in my case, it's going to be above 60 hertz, which this subwoofer is not going to be playing. It's not playing much because it's going to be crossed over at maybe 70 or 80. So as you can see, if you want the most power from your amplifier, that's what SPL's guys do by clamping your amplifier. The most power your sub is going to deliver at the tuning frequency. And that's why they say wire it to the ground, because if you're playing music like between, let's say, if you're playing music at 40 hertz here, the impedance here is like 12 ohms. So there's going to be less power delivered, but that's the thing, the subwoofer doesn't need that much power playing these frequencies because it's like a resonant frequency, exactly the same here. If you're going to play 20 something, it doesn't need that much power. So one way to find, actually find, not guessing, to find where your amplifier gives out the most power is just take your box, make this rig, do an impedance sweep, and you're gonna have the exact frequency where it gives out the most power. In my case, it's gonna be 30 hertz. And basically this is your box rise. It's very similar in a sealed enclosure. Let's open WinISD. Let's open Alpine sealed just for fun, and impedance. So the black one, so the green one is ported, which has 2 peaks and a dip, and the black one is a sealed. So sealed is gonna have one massive peak. So if we want to deliver the most power, to clamp the most, it's not gonna be the sealed boxes tuning frequency, is gonna be below. So it's like at 20, whereas the lowest impedance and above. So this is your box rise. When you're changing the frequency, your subwoofer gets less power because it doesn't need it because of the resonant frequency. Okay, so this is your box rise. Yeah, so these are the results. This is my impedance sweep. Now I know that I don't need any extensions to the port to have a 30 hertz tuning frequency. I'm happy with this box. This is my test enclosure. I will have loads stuff to do with it, so I'm gonna measure the frequency response in the car. I will be measuring. I will try to measure resonant frequencies of the side panels. I'm gonna try to add some bracing to glue and see how much it changes. I don't know how to do that yet, but I'm gonna try. That's the plan. So tune in next time when we're gonna measure the frequency response in the car with all the different positions that is possible to put possible to put the subwoofer box in the car. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.